but I feel it's necessary for those who may really want to have substantial information of what it is that they can do proactively. A lot of times when people get ill, they tend to feel like victim. Oh, I'm sick and this and that. They don't feel that they makes them feel like they don't want to do anything. But to take a proactive stance in your healing, it empowers you. Know what to do empowers you. Even in the suffering, even when you're bent over, even when your head is splitting, know that your body is telling you something. It's speaking to you and telling you, here's what you need to do. And studying what you have to do in order to answer the call of your body during these times is what allows you to suffer correctly so that you can immediately get busy on helping yourselves. And there's some natural countermeasures that my beloved wife, Dr. Nalani, and I have been teaching people, as well as our beloved brother, Dr. Alaila Africa, Rena Fua, all of Dr. Love, and all that. I'm just calling the circle of people that I am aware of that has been on the journey with me for the longest period of time. So we are there, and I know, to help and to allay fears. Because if you understood the nature of what a virus really is and what it is that it is comprised of, you'd have to understand that a virus cannot cause anything. A virus is an effect. And if that effect, which is waste matter, accumulates based upon the fact that you are doing the wrong thing, and of course, what seems to be the virus causing something is actually you not doing the right thing in order to give your body the strength to eliminate that waste matter that they call viruses. So in natural countermeasures, we want to address something that we can deal with immediately, something that's right there in our homes. And I know that you have been on Facebook and so many other threads that have been putting information out there, good information. And we just want to give our own, I guess, 3 cents to this situation. So I have a number of things that we have put together for you. Take a minimum of about 1 to 2 minutes to wash hands and arms, especially those that have been exposed. This essentially is suggested by the CDC. However, I personally caution over doing anything this radical, especially since your body contains billions of helpful, beneficial bacteria that may be destroyed by such action. So if you overdo anything, I mean, if you're washing and you're looking, you're walking around in a plastic bag, pretty much like, people who are actually germophobic, you're actually going to find yourself very uncomfortable. And you may end up doing number two, which is antibacterial soaps. You start bringing all kind of antibacterial materials into your home and starting to use them. But know that your skin is permeable. So antibacterial soaps and agents not only affect you on your skin, but penetrate the skin as well. These ingredients can enter the bloodstream and possibly cross the blood-brain barrier, causing dysfunctions in the endocrine system, acting as what are known as endocrine disruptors. 3. Now, endocrine disruptors are what actually causes the destruction of, mostly in males, the destruction of testosterone, which you see actually happening in really epidemic numbers today. Heat is the best agent against foreign pathogens that enter the lungs. So when possible, get out in the sun. Now, we're going into the springtime, and this is the time when I know that you're saying that outside is poisonous, putting all kind of crap in the air. And there are times when that does not really occur. And I know everybody today, we're not going to work anymore. But the best time to actually go out and actually get the healing rays of the sun is before noon, before cars and different things. The activity of the day begins to cause the day to get warmer and more pollution to get into the atmosphere. So in the morning time, I would suggest that if you get up around 8 or 9 in the morning and you can catch that sun, the sun is our friend. Our melanin craves it. We require it. And the darker you are, the more sun you need. Saunas are excellent because of the heat. Again, when you're in the sauna, make sure that you're in there with proper the area that you're in is properly disinfected, and also that when you're using the heated or the water, make sure that the water is distilled, because you don't want any kind of polluted water turning into steam. That means you'll be taking in all of the ingredients that are in that water, fluoride, chlorine, and so forth. Number 5, hot distilled water with lemon or lime mixed with kyolic garlic. That used to be a favorite of ours back in the day. Number 6, therapeutic grade essential oils. My wife, Dr. Nolani, has a book called 7 Steps to Healing and Wellness. And in it, she has some incredible methods to help you to assist in the body's healing. Remember, we don't want to interfere with the healing processes of the body. We just want to assist. And one of the best ways to assist is through the therapeutic grade essential oils. And for this particular situation we're dealing with, as far as the flu is concerned, frankincense, rosemary, oregano, ginger, eucalyptus oil. And we caution the use of eucalyptus oil because if you do have an epileptic condition, eucalyptus is not good for you. Okay? Peppermint, spearmint, clove, lavender, orange oil. Oils, these oils are best used in a diffuser. It doesn't need to be in the diffuser yourself. You can actually put it into your bath, or as we say in the old-fashioned way, as we're going to get into, I'll show you another way of doing it. Garlic oil, which is excellent, and I suggest at this particular time that you warm it and put it into the sublingular under your tongue or in your ear. You can drink it as a tea. The 4 to 7 drops in your ear. Most people don't know that the air actually creates the wax, and then the wax is then pushed out so that you can clean it or take the extra amount out of your ear. But people don't realize that sometimes when we are bathing, or if we're in a place where we are in, say, in a pool or whatever it is, if water gets into the air and if there are any kind of bacilli or any kind of materials that's there, they get into and are trapped in the wax. And so a good way to do that is for you to do some funneling, or if you can, with the air wax, or you deal with some air candling, and that helps to remove the bacillus or materials that would cause the sinuses, because inside of there, remember your ears, the kidneys empty out at the ears. So if you have kidney conditions and you have different types of materials in your ear that are attracting fungus and so forth, you want to make sure that you're cleaning that out. And one good way of killing those germs is to take warm garlic oil and place 4 drops in there, and then you can, anybody who knows how to do, you can actually go up online and learn how to do air candling. Now, number 8, warm distilled water, about 8 ounces, with a 1/4 cup of organic apple cider vinegar with lemon. This is a good way of actually clearing the palate, especially if there are any kind of the mucus in the throat. It helps to bring the mucus that is there in the esophageal regions and in the bronchioles up so that you can expectorate. Know that the fact that your body creates mucus, that's been the attack. When they wanted to attack you with the so-called coronavirus, they first had to, before that, weaponize certain chemicals that they dropped from the air or they sprayed from these so-called street cleaners that actually had all these toxic chemicals that you were breathing in. And what that did was diminish your defensive system. So the mucous membranes are what they attack, especially when they give you the vaccination. Vaccinations goes past your protection in your skin and right through your mucous membranes into the bloodstream, which mucous membranes would never allow that filth that deeply into the inner interstitial tissues. Vitamin C, of course, organic, liquid, or crystal. Do not overdo the dosage because the body does not need that much, unless if you're going for chelation, remove heavy metals, or you're taking it intravenously. That's a kind of a radical way. But if you look at the amount of vitamin C that's actually in an orange, it's very low. Okay. Zinc, you take it in liquid or lozenge. Going to the old school, the way that my grandmother and my grandfather used to deal with these colds, boil a medium to large pot of distilled water with ginger, add 3 to 4 drops of peppermint essential oil with 3 drops of garlic oil, place a clean towel over your head, then face over the steaming pot. Inhale slowly and cautiously at first to acclimate the sinuses to the heat. Adverse pathogens are highly susceptible to high heat in the lungs, which is why the body initiates a fever to fight them. The fever then creates interferon, which then interferes with all of the materials that are causing the problem in the body in the first place. So here you have essentially certain things you can actually use immediately. I would suggest for those of you who are suffering, especially with your sinuses, and you can actually feel it in your chest, that if there are any bacillus in there because the mucus is trapped and therefore bacilli are trapped in that mucus and they're causing an agitation, causing you to, and you get that dry cough, then your body is trying to expectorate what the mucus is trapped. That's where the cough is coming from. Okay? So what you want to do is to help the mucus to come forward. And therefore, a lot of what we have done, what I've given to you, will help in that process. Let's go to the next. Now, as far as fevers are concerned, a lot of parents call me and my wife about fevers, especially when it comes to infants and toddlers. In babies and children, be very careful about babies and children. The average body temperature ranges from 97.9 degrees to 99 degrees Fahrenheit in babies and children. Among young to average adults, body temperature ranges from 97 degrees to 99 degrees Fahrenheit. In elder adults, the average body temperature is lower than 98.6 because the body is not as active, the blood is slowed, there's not a lot of oxygen that is moving through the system. And so our temperatures, as we grow older, tend to become lesser. So those who are in the field, doctors know that if they're reading, say, 97 or 96.8 or something in an elder that is 75 or over, then they understand. Unless that elder, of course, is very, very active, they're really into their health, then of course their bloodstream would be pumping, their heart would be slower, but their bloodstream would be more, the blood vessels would be much, much stronger and much wider. Okay? Now, note this is very important to you parents, especially to the parents of young infants and young toddlers. If the number on the baby thermometer should rise above the temperatures noted above, do not attempt to bring the temperature down with baby aspirin or other salicylate-based medication. Instead, draw a bath whose temperature is slightly lower than the fever, adding a capful of organic vinegar, lavender, or spearmint to the water. A cool wash rag, refrigerated slightly, or with cool water on the forehead and the back of the neck works. And of course, I may be talking to the choir, but I feel it's necessary for those who may really want to have substantial information of what it is that they can do proactively. A lot of times when people get ill, they tend to feel like victim. Oh, I'm sick and this and that. They don't feel that makes them feel like they don't want to do anything. But to take a proactive stance in your healing, it empowers you. Know what to do empowers you. Even in the suffering, even when you're bent over, even when your head is splitting, know that your body is telling you something. It's speaking to you and telling you, here's what you need to do. And studying what you have to do in order to answer the call of your body during these times is what allows you to suffer correctly. That's a word, a Greek word called orthopathy. We learn in our naturopathic school. Orthopathy means correct suffering. We don't know how to suffer correctly, so we take all kind of junk to try to mitigate the symptoms. Meanwhile, the body's efforts at healing is the suffering. And so we have to come to that understanding to learn how to suffer correctly. Now, I don't mean that you're going to go through agony. You want to take that time so that you can help to naturally mitigate it by giving the body what it needs during that time of suffering so that you can rest, because rest and sleep is the number one healer. Now, here's the caution. Do not take ibuprofen or Advil if you experience symptoms, especially of this coronavirus. Along with aspirin, they are classified as non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, or NSAIDs. NSAIDs are in what they call the propionic acid group. NSAIDs work by slowing the formation of compounds known as prostaglandins. Prostaglandins play an important role in the body's inflammatory responses by keeping the blood vessels dilated. NSAIDs block an enzyme called cyclooxygenase, cyclooxygenase, also known as COX. The COX enzyme helps produce prostaglandins. Blocking COX also interferes with the blood platelets, cells in the blood involved in clotting. Now, this came off of the medical public web. It says drugs in the propionic acid group have produced metabolic acidosis, listen carefully, respiratory depression. They've been giving people for their pain ibuprofen and Advil for the headaches. And we don't know how many of these people who have been dying from the so-called coronavirus have been given all these wrong medications. Now, here are some of the NSAIDs off to the left. These are included, and if you are taking any of these and you are experiencing any of the symptoms, please look and see whether or not your NSAID is here. Oxyprozin, etodolac, what is that? Etodolac, endomethacin, naproxen, nabumetone, diclofenac, Vimovo. I mean, who sits in these offices and thinks up these names? Just to mess with you so that only the doctors know what the heck you're talking about. So know that these things actually cause respiratory depressions because that particular material, the prostaglandins that allow for blood flow, especially oxygen that is so needed, and you can hardly breathe, you can hardly get any oxygen into your lung. If you're taking any of these NSAIDs, it is shutting down or constricting the blood vessel so that you can't get that necessary and very vital oxygen to areas of your body. And you wonder, maybe these people are dying from the actual cure. Also, another caution, these NSAIDs increase the risk of heart failure. They give gastrointestinal damage, ulcers, and internal bleeding, high risk of renal, which is kidney failure, serious allergic conditions, which is something that is now enhanced by people who have the corona or any kind of flu condition. It's a serious danger, these NSAIDs, to children and teenagers, especially teenagers who are vaping. A lot of the teenagers who are coming down, we found, with the coronavirus, because it affects the lungs, vaping, which is concentrated nicotine, which is a very, very volatile toxin. The body has, the lungs of people who are chronic vaporers have compressed and what looks like dried out bronchioles, because the bronchioles are doing their best to stop that toxin from getting in at that concentrated level in the lung. But of course, you can't tell anyone that, and they would say that I'm, practicing medicine without a license. For congested lungs due to pneumonia symptoms, Here's something that I did for a gentleman who worked for the New York Times. He was very much up there as one of the chief editors. I gave him this particular remedy. Actually, it's not a remedy. Actually, it's a process. Wash up raw organic cranberries into a mulch, the purpose of making a very large poultice. Boil a large pot of distilled water, 4 to 5 drops of peppermint and or eucalyptus oil. Off the fire and submerge a towel large enough to cover the back and chest with the materials that you put in. In other words, you stuff that mulch into, you put the towel in the mulch into the water, let it sit there for a little while till it's very, very hot. Squeeze it off and take that large piece of gauze or a thin white cotton t-shirt and place the crushed up cranberries into the gauze or t-shirt. Dip the berries in the gauze or t-shirt into the boiled water while heated. Then place the crushed cranberry poultice on the area of the lungs, making sure to cover with saran wrap to keep the heat in as long as possible. Repeat the process on the chest area. Now, there are times, I believe, when it's in the wintertime, it's very difficult to try to find cranberries. I believe they come out sometime in October or in the latter part of the year. But my wife always stocks up on the cranberry. You can also drink it raw, mix it in, distill water, diluted, and drink it down like that, because it does cause the sputum to come up, and it has a concentration of nutrients, vitamin C and so forth. But putting the poultice directly on the back after you've heated the back so that the pores are open, you just lay it on there, wrap him or her in the plastic saran wrap, and you will be shocked at what that does, because the body then absorbs it directly through the skin and into the lung. Now, I want to make sure that you understand, family, that the tests that they're giving people to find out whether or not they have the coronavirus is based on what is known as the polymerase chain reaction, or PCR test. It's the same type of test that has been given to people with supposed HIV to find HIV. And it's been around for at least 40 years, but it has been found to be at least 80.33% inaccurate, rendering false positives as well as false negatives. This test was part of the testing models for HIV and was assumed to detect individual viruses. Imagine, they would say, okay, that virus, this virus, or this. You don't know what a virus is. Just filth. It's just like going to a dumping ground where sanitation takes all its garbage, and it's a landfill. And they're going to tell you that in that landfill, you're going to find this one little disease, one little virus. It's ridiculous. But it was found to be susceptible, especially this PCR test, to surrounding environmental materials, and very, very prone to being corrupted. Now, I went into the Public Med one time right here and looked for false positive readings. And here you have potential false positive reading or rate on the asymptomatic infected individuals, close contact with COVID-19 patients. In other words, asymptomatic means you're healthy. And what they found out when they began testing healthy people, they found out that the false positive rate, there you see within the red square, red rectangle, false positive rate of positive